Run!
Is it expensive?
They don't have this much fun in Utah. Hey, before I get started, I just want to say lupus, hypertension, high blood pressure, cancer, diabetes, shout it out, what else?
Dialysis.
Fibromyalgia,
MS.
Crohn's disease,
MS.
Okay, so this is the stuff I deal with every day, all day long, right? What do I tell people to do? I tell them to do a ketogenic diet. Because with every disease that people struggle with, there is this component of inflammation, right? So what is the food plan? Every food plan has been studied that lowers inflammation the very most. Which one is it? It's a ketogenic diet. It really is. So that's what, sometimes people have to go off their blood pressure medication, right? Because blood pressure gets too low on a ketogenic diet. So that's very, very common. Sorry about that feedback. Okay, so let's get started. We're having some pointer issues here, so when I point, we're going to advance. So this is me. I'm in Spanish Fork, Utah. I don't have 12 kids, I only have 5. So, and that's my clinic. And these are some of my qualifications. I think the biggest one here, board certified in telemedicine, but I have to tell you, I love what I do with functional medicine. So functional medicine, I'm going to talk. This is what I think is so, and this is you guys, without question. Health-oriented, patient-centered, holistic, looks at underlying cause of disease, biochemical individuality, and preventative approach. Doesn't that sound like you? This is when you go. I didn't want to wear the coat, kinda, because this is what this means. It's just, hey, you go in and they say, well, let's just give you a pill. Let's cover up your symptom. And so this is it, right? The sign of a good doctor should be how many patients he can get off medications, not how many he puts on medications. That's my clinic. And, okay, you kind of heard my story, so you can go ahead. This was me. This was my fat boy liver picture, apparently. Then, again, about 35, 40 pounds. And I felt so fortunate that I fell into this ketogenic lifestyle right after I finished residency. And my neighbors thought I was a little crazy. I didn't really care because I looked a lot better than them and, all sorts of stuff. So, go ahead. And this is me when I deployed. I deployed to Iraq. Great experience. Loved it. Lived the ketogenic lifestyle while I was in Iraq. That's my awesome wife right there. We've been married 27 years. And so we couldn't have kids. Well, we tried, but we couldn't have them. And we ended up adopting 3 kids. That's my daughter Caitlin, that's Riley, she's half Korean, half Samoan, and that's cute Bailey right there. And so in this process of going through kind of a ketogenic diet, my wife also kind of got on board too, right? And we said, hey, how can we be healthy? What's the best way to be healthy? Well, we kept doing what we were doing from the beginning, and then after we changed our diet and we started balancing hormones, that's what happened. So, 9 and 8. And some of you heard the story in Vegas, but when my wife got pregnant, I deployed to Iraq when Mark right here he was 5 weeks old. And I was gone for 4 months, and I came back, and I said to my wife, do you think we should, use some protection? We've been married 20 years. She's like, no. She's like, nothing's going to happen. And so I've probably been home 12 hours, and she was pregnant with that. So, anyways, go ahead. And that's the full crew right there. And my daughter, Caitlin, just got married last weekend, so I just saw some of the pictures of her. Not this one. She's too young. That's Bailey. She looks like she should get married, right? She's as tall as me. But that's Bailey. These are my 2 boys now. They were ring security, right? They were in charge of the ring. And that's the full crew right there. And there's our new addition. This is Zach. He's married to Caitlin. So anyway. In our family, we focus on gratitude. I just think that when people live their life in gratitude, everything is good, right? So I get really emotional about this because I just think that people that are happy have this focus on gratitude. Okay, go ahead. So what you put on the end of your fork is more powerful than anything you put at the bottom of the pill bottle. Food is not just calories, it's information. It talks to your DNA and tells it what to do. And do you know what is the very best thing to talk to your DNA? Ketones. Because they turn down inflammation. And when inflammation goes down, what gets better? Lupus, blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, everything. Fibromyalgia, pain, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, so what is a ketogenic diet, right? So the history of ketogenic diet, I have a lot of my patients that are like, Doc, you're telling me not to eat fruit? What? They're like, I thought fruit was good for you. Yeah, fruit is good for you. But did we eat fruit all forever, every day of every week, when ancestrally? Probably not. We probably ate it just in the fall. When people would, you get a little chubby in the fall, and then you could make it through the winter, because you were going to go into more of a ketogenic lifestyle during the winter time. So I think sometimes we kind of overeat our fruits a little bit, because there's a lot of sugar in fruit. So what is it? This is what a typical standard American diet looks like, right? So here's mostly carbohydrates, a little bit of protein, and then a little bit of fat. But a ketogenic diet looks like mostly fat, very little carbohydrates, and moderate protein. Everybody kind of understands that? It seems a little... So what's the biggest question my patients always ask me when I show them stuff like this? You're like, what? You can't eat fat? Fat makes you fat. It's like, no, fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar makes you fat. My dad, who's 87, thinks it's his elbow that makes him fat, because every time his elbow bends, his mouth opens. But so this is basically what it looks like: mostly fat, a little bit of protein, or moderate protein, and carbs. So what happens in ketosis? This is a busy slide, but let me just show you that by eating fat and also being able to access fat that you carry around your waist, your liver turns it into these things called ketones, and that gives your heart and your brain tons of energy, more energy than you'll ever get from glucose or sugar. In fact, I can get kind of geeky sometimes, but I love listening to research. Anybody ever heard of the Krebs cycle? Yeah. Anybody have to study the Krebs cycle? Okay, so Dr. Beach was one of Dr. Krebs' students, and he's 88 now. And I listened to a lecture of his just last week. And he talked about, on a ketogenic diet, because he did all the scientific research, 28% more energy on a ketogenic diet. What's the number one complaint in my clinic every single day?
Fatigue.
I'm tired, Doc. I'm tired. And what's number 2? I can't lose weight. And what's number 3? I'm depressed or anxious. So tired, fat, and depressed. That's what I hear in my clinic. And think about a ketogenic diet, right? Tired, more energy. Fat, ketogenic diet, lose weight. Okay, so why do we use it? Well, remember this when they said, hey, these are the low-fat guidelines back in the 1980s. I'm sure everybody remembers that, right? Who was around at that time? You should eat low-fat. So they started putting sugar in everything, and look what happened to our rates of diabetes. Andre talked about this earlier, right? They just have gone up and up and up. This hangs in my office. Beware of sugar. And look at this. The average American consumes about 152 pounds of sugar a year.
Wow.
And 80% of our 6,000 foods products sold in the United States have added sugar. Is that amazing? Why did they put sugar in it? So you'll eat it, right? If you take the fat out, you put sugar back in so people will eat it. This always kind of surprises people. You got to be a good label reader, right? So these are fruit gushers, 6.25 teaspoons of sugar. Same in yogurt. And people are always like, Doc, I'm eating healthy. I'm eating my yogurt, right? Wow. I'm like, yeah, but you got a lot of sugar in your. Or like this. There's more in your spaghetti sauce than there is in M&M.
Wow.
So, I know. And so what happens when you eat lots of sugar? Well, you get that sugar spike, then you get the sugar crash. Who's experienced that before? Everybody? Okay, and then insulin goes up, because insulin goes up to bring your sugar down. But what does insulin do with all that sugar? What does it do with it? What's insulin's job? Store fat, store fat, store fat. So if your insulin is up, like a pre-diabetic, or you're eating lots of carbohydrates, you'll always be in fat storage mode. In Utah, we believe in lots of food storage. We usually put it in our basement. So I always tell these ladies, you got 2 years supply in your basement, but we need to access that 2 years supply, right? And you can't do it if you're eating so much sugar. So the minute that you stop eating sugar, your liver goes, man, we need to do something. So it grabs that food out of your 2 year supply, right, and turns it into energy. Okay, so some people ask about diabetes, but look at this. 37% of our population, over 80 million people, have prediabetes, and 30 million people have type 2. And look at this undiagnosed category. Andre said 70%, it might be 80%. Of people that struggle with their blood sugar control, right? And you saw it, like all those foods, everything has sugar in it. And when sugar is in your diet, insulin goes up and you store fat. Okay, so how do we get into ketosis? Okay, this is maybe the most important graph I'm going to show you tonight. This is one I show my patients every time they come in. Okay, so this right here represents people's weight according to their basal metabolic index, their BMI, right? That one that makes everybody look fat, but it's, we still do it on everybody. So we all know these people, and on this axis is the grams of carbohydrates per day, different levels of insulin resistance. So in other words, this is the number of carbohydrates you can consume in a day and not gain weight. Well, there are people that are in this category, and a lot of us when we were younger can consume as many carbs as we want, say 400 grams, and never gain a lick of weight, right? That's not very many people, though. The majority of the people are right up here in these categories. And so let's follow this for a second. So in order for someone to ever be able to lose weight that had a BMI of 32, which is, that's probably, if you're supposed to weigh 180 and you weigh a little over 200 pounds, that's you. Then the only way you're ever going to start to see any weight loss is if you get your grams of carbohydrates down to about 50 in a day. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the minute that you start eating more carbs, you go right back up to that same weight. That's why, like Dave was saying, it's so great because you just make this your lifestyle. You have to. Otherwise, you'll be back up here. Everybody put your arm next to your neighbor like this. Just put your arm right next to your neighbor. Who would be more likely to get sunburned in this scenario? I know who it would be there. Who's going to get sunburned? Okay, so everybody has different skin sensitivity, right, to the sun? Don't you think genetically we would also have different sensitivities to controlling our blood sugars? Absolutely. So you might be one of these lucky ducks down here, right? Not very many of us like that. Maybe you're younger and you were that way, but we're mostly in here. So in other words, that's the ticket right there. That's the golden number, right? And you can see, for people that are way up here, it might be 25 for them to get their weight down, right? 25 grams of carbs in a day. That's not very many, right? How many grams of carbs in a banana? 27.
Oh my God.
So you do 20, you eat one banana, you're done for the day.
I'm done.
Okay, so that makes sense. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier, just for sake of time. You know, when carbs are coming in, you make insulin, you store fat, you store fat, you store fat. That's what that means. So that's your goal. Shoot for 50. You might have to be 25. You've seen the graph now, and you can see why. And the minute you go back up, your weight's going to go back up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it has to be a lifestyle.
Yep.
It can't just be I've been doing this for over 8 years, right? My sisters are all overweight. My parents are overweight. And if I didn't keep doing this, I would look like them, because that would be I'd be on that curve. Okay, I did this in Vegas where you can go to Google. I don't have my phone up here with me right now. And you just say, hey Google, how many grams of carbs in a cup of oatmeal? Anybody know off the top of your head? 27. So most people for breakfast have a banana with oatmeal. That's 54 grams of carbs. You're done for the whole day, right? Done for the whole day.
Wow.
Okay. And so fiber is kind of cool. You can minus it out. So let's look at this. These are almonds, I believe. So here's your total grams of carbs. There's dietary fiber. So 5.5 minus 3.3. The last time I was in school, that was 2.2. So that makes your net carbs only 2. And it's like I tell people all the time, you got $50 to spend in a day. And I don't care how you spend that $50, but if you spend over 50, you're probably going to gain the weight back. Or you won't lose weight. Right? So that's how I think about it. But this makes it so you're only spending $2.2. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, how much protein should I get in a day? Well, on a ketogenic diet, a lot of people say, I can eat as much protein as I want. Maybe not. I think this is a pretty good rule. 1 gram of protein a day per kilogram of body weight. How do you get your kilograms of body weight? Well, there's the math. You take your weight divided by 2.2. So this is me, so 85 kilograms. So I would eat about approximately 85 grams of protein in a day. Does that kind of make sense? Now, if you're exercising, well, we'll get to this. Go ahead and, keep going. So a lot of times people don't eat protein because they're, especially ladies, they think they're going to look like that, but, okay. So if you're a lady and you're doing more resistance training and exercising a little bit more, you might do a little more protein. So maybe 90 grams of protein per day. And there's some really good research to back this up, that you want to split it up 30, 30, 30, because by eating that much protein, you have enough leucine, which is an amino acid in protein that stimulates the production of muscle growth. We want muscle, right? Why do we want muscle? It burns calories. Your fat on your waist doesn't burn calories. It's only that stuff, right? That stuff. And then maybe a little more protein during the day. Okay, that's good. No, that's right, go. So how do we get into ketosis, or how long does it take? This one's kind of variable. So 2 to 3 days for some people. That's probably people that are a little more athletic and fit. But for the majority of us, it's probably 2 to 3 weeks. That's why people always talk about, oh, I got that keto flu. I'm going through the keto flu. That can be mitigated by just having enough salt in your diet. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But getting enough salt in your diet, that sounds weird, right? The doctor's telling you to eat salt? Well, you can do, there's all different types of testing. Breath testing, fasting insulin, blood ketones. I think this is the only one that's really accurate, honestly. I've tried all these on myself. That's the only one that's accurate.
Which one?
And what that measures is where you are in this optimal zone. If you want to talk about this, I can talk about it more later. And that's a monitor. But this is sometimes, how many of you know what your hemoglobin A1C is? Some of you diabetics out there do. Okay, hemoglobin A1C, if you've been fat adapted in keto, your hemoglobin A1C will be there. If it's not, it'll be above 5.7. That's one kind of sneaky way to look at it. Sorry, I'm going through this kind of fast because I've got 28 minutes and 30 seconds or something. Oh, why do we do keto? Yeah, keto turtles, right? Those are great things. So, the many benefits of beta-hydroxybutyrate. Okay, so when your fat comes off your body or in your food and goes to your liver, it gets turned into ketones. The most important ketone is called beta-hydroxybutyrate, right? You've heard that before? And in fact, in the keto fizz, right, over here, our keto fizz, that's beta-hydroxybutyrate. Well, why do we want beta-hydroxybutyrate? This is kind of a busy slide too, but the main things are increases lifespan, decreases inflammatory response, feeding the gut independent of indigested fiber. Increase in energy, decreases allergies, inflammatory airway. People all the time with asthma and allergies, I'm just like, look, get on a ketogenic diet. Your asthma and allergies will get better. Okay, everybody asks me about cholesterol all the time, right? They're like, I can't be on a high-fat diet. I'm going to get fat. And I'm also going to have my cholesterol go up. Okay, so to me, because people ask me about this all the time, the very most important lab when it comes to cholesterol is your small LDL particles. So what we can do in cholesterol now is we can subdivide your LDL into big particles and small particles. It's a specialized, little more specialized test. But always on a ketogenic lifestyle, the small particles go down. And the small particles are the ones that cause plaque buildup and heart disease. So always, triglycerides go down, HDL goes up, always. So yeah, don't get worried. You just have to get the right blood test to monitor your cholesterol. Okay, so fat is a superior fuel. Your mitochondria, this one's super busy. But I could just talk about this all day. This would be great. But mitochondria make energy. And the mitochondria love ketones. That's why I do keto fizz before I go to the gym, because beta-hydroxybutyrate fuels these little batteries to make energy. And then my brain, I have lots of energy, everything, right? And the majority of your mitochondria in your brain. So greater health and longevity. Consuming fats enhances brain function and gives mental stability. Also, and again, if you want to see these, I'm sure they're going to be available, but this one clearly worked for us. And that too. Those two go hand in hand, don't they? Maybe. But yeah, even things like acne, recovering from exercise. How many of you noticed that you're not as sore now after exercise? Isn't that awesome? You can recover faster. Okay, so what makes it easier? Well, keto fuel, because what does keto fuel look like? 5 grams of carbs, so you're spending 5 of your $50, right? And 12 of protein and 21 grams of fat. So that's kind of the ratios you're going to look for in a meal, right? 5, 12, 21, something like that. So this makes it super easy to do that. And besides that, it's tasty. Tastes good. And that also makes it easier, having to burn caps, because that helps suppress appetite, gives you energy. And there's Owen. I just thought I'd throw that in. He's just photobombing me. You can see. Anyway. Okay, so what are the 2 big reasons that people kind of slow down on their weight loss or that progress? Well, these are the 2, and these are the 2 that I get questions about all the time from y'all and on Facebook and my patients. And it's the stress, right? Stress is huge, because if insulin's job is to bring sugar or glucose down and store it as fat, what's cortisol's job? To make your blood sugar go up. So when people are stressed out, their blood sugars go up. Are you in ketosis at that point? No. So why does your blood sugar go up when cortisol goes up? Because cortisol goes up because your body has this response, I'm running from a saber-toothed tiger, right? And you gotta have sugar to run. And so it's doing it on purpose. It's like, look, you have so much stress, there must be a tiger chasing you. I'm gonna give you more sugar so you can run faster. And so that's why it's so important. Sleep, manage your stress, right? A BulaFIT or even a ketogenic lifestyle is not just food. It's also sleep, and it's stress management, and it's exercise, right? Okay, and the other one here is gut health, and we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so this is just how I measure it in my clinic. Cortisol, that's high. This would be normal, start high and go low. But if people are up here, they're not going to be in ketosis because they're making their sugars go up. And when cortisol goes up, blood sugars go up. And when blood sugars go up, insulin goes up. And what does insulin do? It stores fat. And then cortisol goes back up. And it's a bad, vicious circle, right? Okay, so this can definitely help at night. Melatonin can help kind of dampen that. Also, consuming sugar can help with your adrenals. Salt is not only good for... Sorry, what did I say? Yeah, that too. Salt, yeah, salt helps your adrenals. You know, having salt, in order to make cortisol, you have to have salt in your diet. But a lot of times people complain of leg cramps, constipation on a ketogenic diet. That's just a salt problem, because if you don't have enough salt, you get rid of magnesium and potassium. But if you have enough salt in your diet, you hold on to those minerals, and most of these problems go away. I feel like I'm at my daughter's wedding again. Right? We did a lot of dancing. That was fun. Okay, so in other words, enough salt will help all that stuff, because I'll hear this. People will message me sometimes and say, is it okay if when I stand up I'm dizzy if I go on a ketogenic diet? Yeah, probably, but you better make sure they're getting enough salt in their diet, right? Okay, so this is my little thing. Just don't forget your daily meds, manage stress, exercise, diet, sleep. That's what I was talking about. How much time do I have? I'm almost done.
3 minutes and 48 seconds.
Okay. So, now, if there's only one exercise you're going to do, and I'm doing it to the beat, is to do resistance training. Why? Because it improves insulin sensitivity and lowers the risk of prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, and diabetes-related mortality. And improves hypertension, strengthens bones, improves recovery from illness, and helps with posture and sarcopenia, it's muscle wasting. So, resistance training helps more muscle stay, and that's where you burn your calories, is in your muscle. So if you only can exercise once or twice a week, make it resistance training. Don't get on the treadmill. You're wasting your time. I mean it. I honestly mean it. Exercise does not help you lose weight. It's food. You've got to change the way you eat. Wow. People come into my clinic all the time and they say, Doc, I've been exercising so good and I haven't lost a lick of weight. And then we talk about their diet plan. And you're like, all right, I'll lose weight. That's a terrible diet. Or you're eating way too much sugar. Or maybe you're on one of those big curves, that we talked about. That didn't have anything to do with exercise. That had everything to do with what you put in your mouth.
Wow.
If you're going to do cardio, make it 20 minutes and make it HIIT training. We'll talk about that more later tomorrow. But yeah, you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. You never can. This is the other reason, gut. If you have a bad gut, this is what happens. It affects the whole body adversely, right? Inflammation. How do we fix the gut? Those are big reasons right there. Turmeric, ginger, and bentonite clay. Those are amazing things that can help that. Plus, that can be helpful too. A lot of times people have had their gallbladder removed and they need digestive enzymes to help break down the fat too. And then, of course, sometimes we get a little constipated, and that's pretty awesome. I love this idea of eating fermented foods, because is that ketogenic? Absolutely. It's usually, cabbage, because it's sauerkraut, right? But what else is in fermented foods that's really good for people on a ketogenic diet? Lots of salt, right? Which is good. Okay, and then of course with the ketogenic food plan, which is what that is. Okay. So just to review really quickly, getting your body to burn fat for fuel and not sugar, that's what a ketogenic diet is. So you want to limit your, you got $50 to spend in a day. You spend over 50, you're going to go back up that curve. You spend under 50, you're going to go down the curve. You're going to lose weight. And it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. You don't want to overeat protein. Don't forget to eat some salt. And cortisol. You gotta sleep. You gotta manage stress. You gotta get some deep breathing techniques or whatever you do. Exercise. Now, exercise is amazing for stress, right? And then the benefits of a ketogenic diet are definitely more than just weight loss, like we talked about. And I believe this, when I is replaced by we, even illness becomes wellness. And so we can do this together.
Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And that was just a preview. Say preview. Tomorrow we'll get the real deal. I'm excited. I'm impressed. Can I make a confession before we end? Because people keep blackmailing me. So I don't like to be blackmailed. So today I was out with David Pitcock. I was out with Mr. William Andrioli. And I ordered chicken and waffles. I'm sorry.
You spent $100.
I was in ketosis. But I just transitioned to ketosis. So I'm not perfect. You don't have to be perfect. David Pitcock wasn't perfect for 8 months. And now he's super keto man. He just told on me on live, you were eating chicken and waffles. I look back, he recorded the whole thing. So I just wanted to be transparent with you guys. Is that all right? But I'm in ketosis now. Anybody in ketosis? Come on up here. Talk to me. No, come on. Because we closing out.
It's a chicken and waffle.
Mr. Mike Capson, give him a round of applause. What's your testimony, Mike? How many pounds?
Do you know what this is? Excuse me. What this is?
5
Represents what?
5 pounds.
I lost over 10 of these guys. Thanks to
Wow.
10 of these? 10 of these, ladies? You know who's happy? His wife. I'm sorry, Bishop.
Sorry, you're such a... killing me. Hey, real quick. The orders, we've got a lot of people, man, this is sensitive. A lot of people have placed orders back here. We're announcing the orders when Mr. Vaughn is done. Please know that everything we have back here is all we have. So it's a first come, first served basis. Please fill out your forms, bring them up there. We'll fill them for you, and then we'll have you go down the line, and we'll go ahead and get you charged and taken care of it on your way. So just so you know. Okay? Bula, bula, bula.
All right, guys, so excited that you stayed for the fourth quarter and overtime. Excited, give yourselves a round of applause. And I'm gonna hold, this is 5 pounds. I'm gonna lose some more weight. This is a lot. And so we'll be back tomorrow at what time? 9, right? But you gotta get here early, right? So we're gonna get here real early, so not 9 o'clock, but 8:57. Is that all right? So we can end up on high energy. Can we see if the DJ can send us out on high energy? Can you give us something decent, some leaving out music?
Not Taylor Swift.
Let's go.